The Democrats are really good at frightening people, pretending that the old people that the Republicans are going to take away their Social Security.
Do you think or believe that there is racism still?
Let me.
You can't get away from it.
No, here's the deal.
Do you think? Because Mike, you always do this.
No.
I want you to answer the question first, then we can go into it.
I think there's just.
Welcome back, guys, to a new episode of The Misconception and the Opinion of the Conservative. I am sitting here with Mike from Philadelphia, the Germantown section of Philadelphia. And we are here, of course, Mike, we want to get into some topics regarding redlining and also some things that have been going on in our country since our president has taken office once again. So first off, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. So let's get started, Mike. First of all, tell us a little bit about your background and who you are and what you have been doing in the political field.
Well, I think what brought me here today is a brief little conversation we've had the several times that we've seen each other. And as a baby boomer, born right after the Second World War, I was born into a city, a working class blue collar city of 2 million people.
Okay.
And now I find myself growing old in a city that of 1.5 million that doesn't look anything like it was growing up. So a blue collar working class city of 2 million people that's now 1.5 million people.
Okay.
And if you read the information, we are now the poorest big city in our country. As a matter of fact, Germantown, according to a Pew Report information I saw, when we got married, my wife and I got married back in '73. In 1970, East and West Germantown, where 15% of the people were at or below poverty. Today it's 46%.
Wow. Well, let me pause you right there. What do you feel has contributed to that rise in poverty?
Well, there's been a number of events and policies that have evolved since then, I think, that have contributed to that. And instead of making compensating errors, it seems like we're making additive errors. Well-intentioned, but some of the wrong things that they've done. I mean, we can start with, if you'd like do a little walk down memory lane. I'd like to describe my neighborhood growing up as a kid.
Okay.
I'm a couple little blocks behind the 39th District Police Station at 22nd Hunting Park. And those couple little blocks were isolated by Hunting Park Avenue. At one end, the top of our block, was the Bud Company. When I was growing up in grade school, that employed 25,000 people.
Okay.
A block down was the Link Belt Company that made the turnstiles for the Link Belt cranes. There were houses across the street from where I live and a railroad, and next to the railroad was the Midvale Heppenstall Company. That was a foundry. In fact, at that foundry, they built not only the guns for battleships there, but they also built the nuclear reactor for the first nuclear submarine in the world, which was the Nautilus. So that's the kind of city we lived in, a working class blue collar city. The people who lived on my block were machinists and tool and die makers, and they worked at Bud Company. They worked all around the place. This was a working class industrial city.
Okay.
That has changed.
Let's talk about redlining, because that was one of the topics I wanted to discuss with you. Your neighborhood when you were growing up was predominantly what?
Well, the whole it was predominantly everything. There were a lot of now the only thing we seem to be talking about now is white and black. But you have to understand, I think, the city of Philadelphia was all the neighborhoods had some ethnic persuasion. Polish areas, German areas.
So it's always been
Irish.
diverse.
It's always been little pockets. I mean, we are a city of immigration. So when people came here, just like Chinatown seems to have attracted and really concentrated mostly Asian people, Chinese people. A lot of neighborhoods were like South Philly is almost identified as Italian. So we had that ethnic thing. That was reinforced by the churches, the Catholic churches in my case, which were not just general churches, but they were the Italian parish, the German parish, this parish. So it really was always pockets of people, again, from the migration of the late 1800s into like World War I.
Okay.
But I think what's really interesting is that the working class people all had that in at that time the pot was getting to be more of a stew than individual little sections.
Okay. Well, let me ask you now, with our new mayor in office, Mayor Sherrill Parker, have you seen any positive changes since Mayor Kinney left?
Unfortunately, the mayor is doubling down on the same failed policies that started basically in the 60s.
Okay.
You have to understand, I think, the housing. Can we talk about the housing for a minute?
Sure.
I was a kid growing up when post World War II. World War II took people from the farms, especially like in the South.
Yeah.
War production took people off those farms, brought them up north, war production. That continued after the war when we went from war production to regular, peacetime production. And in that change, their neighborhoods like ours, like the one I grew up in, very easily had generations of the same family. That same house could have had the same family name for 2 or 3 generations. Right after, when I was in grade school, that all changed, and it changed quickly and radically. There were areas of the city, and that's why I mentioned to you about blockbusting. That's one of our conversations that leads to the redlining topic. The blockbusting. So here you got these stable neighborhoods that had intergenerational people there that didn't want to move. So all these people, a whole bunch of new people are trying to immigrate into the city. So how do they find housing? Well, some unscrupulous real estate people found a way. It was called blockbusting.
Okay, explain that for us.
What they would do is they would buy a house on the block. And on our block, this happened. The real estate person, who I won't name, basically moved in 2 single black women with 4 children.
Okay.
No dominant male presence. My mom was at the time having some health issues, and she was in the front bedroom. Anytime between 11 o'clock at night and 1 o'clock in the morning, people would come by, stop in front of the house, lay on the horn because they wanted a date. It was nothing but disruptive. It was not another family like the families that were already on the block. Incredibly disruptive. As soon after they did that, that same real estate then would start making calls to everybody on the block and say, look, the neighborhood's changing. Now, changing.
Right.
Changing from
what do you think their reason of doing that was?
Well, their reason was it had worked for them. They stampeded people into thinking the whole world was upside down and crazy. In other parts of the city, like between, you have to understand that in a 1 or 2 year period, the area between, say, Lehigh Avenue and Allegheny Avenue went from, it wasn't anything to go in a house in a block of houses, 60 houses on the block, and see 40 for sale signs. 40 for sale signs. They frightened them that much that the whole world was going crazy. That moved down then between Allegheny Avenue and Erie Avenue, where we live. That's where the 39th District Police Station is. That went overnight, within a couple of years, went from white to black. I mean, completely changed.
Okay.
Now, we were a little isolated. We saw that, and a lot of the people on the block knew, by that time, they knew what the game was. So our little island didn't stampede. We didn't just answer this thing. You also have to understand a little anecdotal story. The people I grew up with as a baby boomer, they're the ones who lived through the Depression and fought World War II. A couple of people on our block were veterans from World War II. In fact, there was one guy, especially I remember, at the beginning of our block, who was a veteran of the Korean War, which was a really terrible situation. He was clearly suffering. He was one of these PSTD kind of guys. He had some real problems. Two of his boys were like our age, so we were friends with them. So when that happened, for instance, some of these people who were nobody to fool with basically told that real estate person, don't ever come on the block because you may not leave alive.
Wow.
Now that redlining road, a lot of people, and you and I had a little short discussion about this, think about redlining as just another example of discriminatory thing against black people. Again, the neighborhoods are changing. You have to understand that blockbusting, when you've got 60 houses and 40 for sale signs, that house, which constituted the family wealth that got kind of passed down, all of a sudden a house that might be worth $6,000 in the 1950s was selling for $2,500. It wiped out the family wealth.
Wow.
Now, some of those houses also had mortgages on them. So if you got a mortgage for $4,500 or $5,000 on a house, and now all of a sudden it's only worth $2,500, what do the banks do? Their job is to have a fiduciary responsibility to the depositors. That house is now underwater. The redlining had nothing to do with the color of whoever is applying for it. It had to do with there was no way to predict the value of the property. That's what those red lines were.
Okay.
And that situation, it took a little while. It took several years before they finally passed a law that said, oh, don't you real estate people do that blockbusting thing and make people crazy. But by that time, it was several years later, the damage had already been done. There was no redlining, by the way, up in the Northeast where they were taking farmland that was there before World War II and turning into all those houses that we see along the boulevard and all these other places. There's no redlining up there. The redlining had to do with the unpredictable nature of the house values you couldn't tell. Notice we also had a similar situation just recently with the economic meltdown, 2008, 2009, when the well-intentioned Community Reinvestment Act, Barney Franks and Christopher Dodd, they said everybody should have the American dream. Well, that means they were doing no doc loans. They didn't care whether you had a job that made enough money. Oh, listen, first 5 years we'll reduce your payment. We'll tack it on the end. But in 5 years you should be doing better, right? Remember what happened with 2008, 2009? The government had to bail out the banks. They didn't bail out the banks because they were incompetent. They were doing exactly what Barney and Christopher Dodd told them to do and gave people loans that they should never have, that weren't creditworthy. So our government doesn't seem to understand, again, well-intentioned, but what they do oftentimes has the complete opposite effect. And now, and gentrification is like the reverse side of that coin.
Okay, now, so let's talk about gentrification. So now you have, what do you feel? How do you feel about these realtors coming in, well, not realtors, these, what do you call them?
Oh, the developer.
How do you feel about the developers?
Well, we used to call them yuppies, the people who
coming in.
That's what you're thinking.
They're buying these
gentrification.
Properties.
You're buying the properties.
Buying these properties, right? And they're pushing out the people that has been there for 40, 50, 60 years. And like, what are they supposed to do? Where are they supposed to go? How do you feel about that?
Tiffany, isn't it interesting that is the absolute opposite side of the coin of what we just talked about with the blockbusting, isn't it? Intergenerational families in neighborhoods forever, and all of a sudden within about a 5 or 6 year period, completely turning things upside down. Isn't that interesting? Except in this case.
Well, how do you feel about that? Do you
but in
think
this
that
case, they're paying more money for houses than they're worth.
Okay.
But the problem is the people who happen to be the working class people who had a job, who could afford to buy it, they all of a sudden now, if they take the money, where are they going to go and find something for the same price or less money? Right. So it's a bit of a problem. But the gentrification, that gentrification issue, by the way, and the undercurrent to that too, is it almost sounds, one of the problems I really hate, which makes me nauseous, is everything gets to be this white-black thing. That there are politicians that find it helpful to stay in office by continuing to divide us by color, but it's really by economics that's really dividing people. Poor people versus
that's true.
It's poor people who are on welfare, it's working poor people, and then it's regular working people, and then maybe middle class. Those are the general ideas. So, but those are different stories. But it's economics. A poor white person in Kensington has the same problems as a poor black person in West Philadelphia.
That's true.
It's economics.
Yeah.
We got to get away from that. Putting a thing, because I'm going to say that a part of the undercurrent has to do with the fact that you're implying that white people are coming in and doing the development thing. Okay. The fact of the matter is the numbers don't substantiate that. Did you know, for instance, that in the last 30 years that 40% of the white people have moved out of the city?
Why do you think that is?
Oh, why do you think that is? Oh my God. The number one reason is a failed school system. Number two reason is it's a city government that has insatiable needs. There is no way that they can spend enough money, that they can invent enough sugar taxes and all these other things they're coming up with. They basically have made it so difficult that anybody who has a job that can afford to is moving out, especially if they have families and children. You can't send them to a failed school system that believes in social promotion. And according to Watlington, a couple of months ago, they had an article there. Only 30% of the 200,000 school children are at grade level. 30%, 70% are failing. Yeah. But you know what Bucks County is, Tiffany?
Do I know where it is?
Bucks County for number of people at grade level. Bucks County is 80% at grade level, 20% not. Now that's nothing to write home about. 20% of the kids is a lot of kids.
Right.
But Bucks County is 80% are at grade level. We're 70% not. Is it money? Bucks County, we spend $33,000. Bucks County spends $22,000 per child. It's not money. It's a system. It's a school system that's the key to why we have in that period of time from as I mentioned with Germantown, from 1970 to 2015, tripled the number of people at or below poverty. It's a school system. You can't have a good job. You need a fundamental education so you can be trained, have a good job so you can afford to rent or buy and have a family. That is not working here in Philadelphia. That got sidetracked about 25 or 30 years ago, and it hasn't, and it went from a slippery slope to COVID. Now it's a cliff.
Okay.
And that's what makes me crazy. As a baby boomer, as a dinosaur who knows that things were different, things were better, it makes me crazy. It makes me nauseous.
Wow. So, I mean, so now fast forward, here we are. This is 2025.
Yep.
Okay. Things changed.
Have they?
Changed. So, yes. So now, here we are. What changes do you feel needs to happen to make your city, better to live in?
Well, thank you for asking that. But the thing is, nothing's really changed. Do you know who it was that said that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes? You got the same theme that runs through.
Okay.
Our mayor, I'll give you two examples.
Okay.
Our mayor has just been bragging about coming up with an $800 million 30-year bond. Did you read where it said that 20,000 or 30,000 houses that it's supposed to help are going to be preserved? That means repaired. Okay. How long do you think repairs last? 5, 10 years? The taxpayers are going to be paying those 20,000 repair jobs 20 years after the repairs need to be repaired 2 more times. Is that an intelligent use of taxpayer dollars? Number two, filthy housing authority. They knocked down, blew up a lot of their high-rise buildings, even though they should have probably kept them and put old people in them, but they blew them up anyway because, oh no, we want low-rise. Up in Germantown, they just bought 4 privately owned apartment complexes, 350 units. They paid $73 million, $20,000 per unit. Half of them were studios and 1 bedroom, which means no children, by the way. The other half were 2.
And just to piggyback off of that.
No, but let me finish this thing. But the other will have 2 bedrooms. So if you had 1 child, a gender, or 2 children of the same gender, you could be in there, but you couldn't have a boy and a girl. So here we are in a city. 25% of the adults, 50% of the children are at or below poverty.
Okay.
And we have a filthy housing authority buying units that don't even handle children.
Okay, so now here's the thing. You have all these new high rises that are $4,000, $5,000 per month.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Now, who is able to? Who are they making these studio apartments and these luxury apartments for?
You need to think of those units, by the way. The thing that makes our city,
because if you think about it, the majority of the people that live in the city cannot afford $4,000, $5,000
Right.
month rent.
what we're doing is we're building those are not apartment buildings, those are hotel rooms.
Okay.
For the meds and eds. The thing that keeps our city going is we've got Penn and all the hospitals and people down there. West Philadelphia and Penn and all our colleges down there are the thing that's keeping us economically afloat. The people who are just passing through need a hotel room for a year or two. That is not the inhabitants.
So you
they are
feel
not long-term
it's more
tenants.
okay. You feel like it's a temporary home in a sense.
They're not. It's not even a home. It's an apartment.
Okay.
They have no roots.
I see what you're saying.
They're going someplace else.
Right.
They get
After a while,
married. They get
definitely.
married and and want to have children. They're not going to be in Philadelphia in a failed school system
Yes.
that needs $50,000 to graduate somebody with a third grade.
So
reading.
So where can we place the people? Okay, for instance, we just went on strike, right? We just went on strike. The city went on strike. Okay, because you have sanitation workers who can barely afford to even, put a down payment on a home, right? So what do you do? Why aren't we building for the people who are here long term?
Right.
Like you just said, those aren't apartments, they're hotels, and those people are going to leave. Absolutely. So why isn't the focus on the people who are here? They work for the city. They are, like I said, long-term residents.
Well, one of the things is the city right now is the biggest single employer is the city itself. Those people you're talking about in the sanitation department, for instance, did you know, for instance, you notice that you got 2 trucks coming, one for the rubbish and one for the recyclables? You do know that now that China doesn't take our plastic recyclables anymore, that 90% of that stuff, would they take a second truck with all those extra people burning that extra fuel, 90% of that stuff's going in the same landfill. So I'm here to tell you that we can't hire two times more people and run 2 times more trucks than we really need and give them a living wage because we can't afford it. That same city who gets their money for streets department, which includes fixing the streets. Have you been down the streets lately? Does it feel like we're in a third world country? I don't know.
Certain parts.
Oh my God. But the thing is, they also collect the trash, okay?
Okay.
The fact of the matter is, they've got too many people wasting their time, wasting our money, and they can't pay them more because they're paying more of them. Instead of paying fewer more, they're paying more of them less. They're not using our money wisely. They're also not doing them any favors. That's not doing somebody any favors.
Wow, I like how you said that, that instead of paying the people more and just have less employees. They're hiring all these people, but yeah, I get exactly what you're saying. But
there's another example of that.
Yeah.
The streets department. Why are the streets in such bad shape? Well, 4 years ago, when they undid all of the energy rules that had our gasoline prices, everything down, asphalt to repair the streets didn't cost as much. Okay. Now, then all of a sudden that cost goes up. Did the streets department lay off any people? Did they have any fewer trucks? They had the same overhead, the same trucks, the same everything, and yet the material that they used, now they only had 1/3 of the material that they used. So now they're doing 1/3 less work because they didn't have the guts to do the business-like thing and lay them off and make the amount of people proportionate to the amount of material that you can do. They have no business sense. So to answer your question, our current mayor is doubling down on the same failed policy, the same stupid economic behavior. We have to live within our means as individuals. Is there a reason why they can't live within our means as well? They doubled and tripled the real estate taxes. Doubled and tripled them. And then they took a property that I have and they multiplied by 8. It cost me $3,000 to appeal it and have it only double. 8 times.
Wow. Well, I do want to ask about property taxes since we're talking about it. So Ron DeSantis, he's the governor down in Florida.
Yep.
All right. So he did mention, eliminating property taxes. Let me ask, how do you feel about that? Because there are some people who are losing their homes because their homes are already paid off, but they can't afford to pay the taxes on it. Right. So how do you feel about the elimination of property tax?
Remember that thing about history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes? We already dealt with that. This is the city of Philadelphia. We did a very progressive thing in 1932. Okay. It's called the Sterling Act. During the Depression, when people weren't working, most municipalities, doesn't matter whether you're a township, whatever, their main source of income is real estate taxes. That plus fees and fines, right? Okay. So what happens is, the city of Philadelphia of 2 million people, went to the state legislature, said, our people can't afford it. So listen, instead of property taxes, how about if we tax not only property taxes, but also wage earners and businesses? Okay. That's why we have city wage tax and the business tax. Right. Before there was a state income tax, we had it here. Okay. That made perfect sense. Until Mayor Nutter decided that the appraisals were way too low. Historically, your house was valued on paper 1/3 of what it was really worth. And that was to basically compensate for that. Now we have 3 sources of income instead of 1. Now what they've done, Mayor Nutter started that ball by pretending it was a problem. He knew better. Okay? Now they've done is they've maxed out all 3, and it is economically, unless you are selling, unless you have a luncheonette selling sandwiches, somebody walking down the street, no business has an economic incentive about being here in the city. That's why we've lost so many of them in the last 20 or 30 years. Bud Company's not here. There's a wholesale distributor. I don't want to mention.
So you support eliminating property taxes?
No. What I'm saying is.
But that's the question.
We had the magic formula since 1932, but they took that and they basically took advantage of it, and
so it was already in place.
We already had a smart way to do this, but the problem is if they won't live within our means, we can't do anything about it. Also, the problem is 70 years we've only had one party represent the Philadelphia. There's never been, the Republicans they're gone. They're gone. There's not even a Republican. Is there a Republican in the city council? There's nobody there. You've been caught with an R next to it for
Why is that?
70 years.
Why? What is the city afraid of when it comes to electing a Republican, mayor? Or what do you think the issue is? Why aren't we seeing people voting differently?
Oh, well, another way to put this, Tiffany, is how could I'll tell you, you know how? Ask any kid that's in grade school, in Philadelphia grade school, which party Abraham Lincoln belonged to. I'll bet you they'll say Democrat. How about Frederick Douglass? How about Martin Luther King? What party was he associated with? They were all Republicans. It astounds me. The Democrats are really good at frightening people, pretending that the old people that the Republicans are going to take away their Social Security, that they're going to do this.
Let's talk about
they
that.
Are just.
How do you feel about
they do that all the time.
Okay.
And I don't know why the Republicans aren't. The Republicans say that's nonsense, but they are so good at lying to people that the people actually believe it.
Yeah.
And that drives me nuts.
Wow.
And
I'm glad I'm sitting here talking to you about Social Security, because that is one of the scare tactics that they're playing on people with. And basically, so you've heard them tell people this prior to President Trump.
Yep, absolutely.
That they're going to take away, the Republicans are going to take away, Social Security, welfare, assistance. So, okay, that's just part of the game.
I'm the only one that cares about you. They don't care about you. I'm here to tell you that the Republicans believe in personal freedom and personal responsibility. Yeah. I would like to think, at this point, the city's in such a big mess, I think the Republicans are afraid to take it over. I mean, what it would take to turn this around after the last 40 years of abuse are just, it's astounding. We now have, there is a survey that they do, the U.S. Department of Education does, Tiffany. It's the website is called PIACC.
Okay.
PIACC.
Yeah.
And they give a survey, the same survey given to 70 developed countries in the world, they give to everybody in the United States. So in the state of Pennsylvania and the city and the county of Philadelphia, would you believe that the people 17 to 70, the people who are supposed to be working for a living, that 46% of them were literacy level 1? Now, when I talk to the lady, now I'm really into this because I've been involved with apprenticeship training now for 40 years.
Okay.
So I'm really into the education thing and where the kids are and where we have to take them and what we have to teach them and all that kind of stuff. Literacy level, when I talked to the woman in Bethesda, Maryland, who knew about this, she said there's no grade level to go with that. It wouldn't be appropriate in Japan or Korea or Indonesia. But she gave me some examples of the questions. Third grade. 46% of the people that would work or in the working group, third grade reading comprehension and math.
Well, let me ask you this.
How do you get a job in third grade? When
people say, what are you doing voting Republican, you're not rich?
Oh. Hey.
What do you say to that?
Republicans aren't perfect either. I'm a center right guy.
Okay. Because you're not rich, you have no business voting Republican. So what would you say to someone that's told you that?
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I think that's kind of ridiculous. What does that have to do?
Tiffany, what I love? Philadelphia is different. But the fact of the matter is, in the center part of our state, Pennsylvania is not a blue state or a red state, is it? We're really purple. We're really a swing state, right? We're purple. And you know why we're purple? Because the people who are in the center get beat up from the extremists on both sides, and you're bruised. That's purple is bruising. That's why you're purple. Never mind. But the deal is, in the center part of the state, at the turn of the century, the real turn of the century, the mill, the mine, and factory owners, the rich people, were what? Republicans. The immigrant workers had to be the other team called the Democrats. Those Democrats in the center part of the state are fiscally conservative, family valued, and there's no difference between Democrats and Republicans in the center part of the state. We get this entitlement thing in the big cities. Wow. That's why we're purple. I'm a center right guy. I love my center left friends. We can talk to each other because we share the center.
Let's call it for left.
The extremists on both
Yeah.
sides are crazy.
Yeah.
They're crazy people. They're the
Right.
ones who are, but they're the ones who, unfortunately, seem to be the ones that are, calling the shots here, or they've got everybody's attention. They're making the most noise.
Yeah.
So the people like us in the center, the center left, center right, center, called the independents, I guess, we're the ones who should be running this show. And now it seems like we've got extremists on both sides that are lunatics that are suggesting things that are crazy.
Well, how do you feel about the big beautiful bill that was recently passed? Do you think it's going to harm the American people financially? Do you support no tax on tips and a couple other things that was on there?
If I was the king of the world, let's use minimum wage as an example. Isn't it great they want to raise minimum wage? Do you know who they really raising minimum wage will benefit? The government. Unemployment compensation, workman's comp, Social Security. More minimum wage means more money for them. If it was me, and I was the king of the world, you wouldn't pay taxes on the first $25,000 or $30,000 because as somebody only earning $25,000, $30,000, you're spending every nickel just to live. Every nickel just to live. Social Security, you do know that LBJ, Social Security used to be its own pot of money that nobody could touch. LBJ put that into the general fund. Okay. Now, Social Security that everybody's worried about somebody's going to steal from it, they're using it for everything other than retirement. FEMA could use some Social Security money, or we got this other really great, it becomes their slush fund. They're the ones that are stealing from it. It was set up to be a retirement fund for older people, older working people. It has now become anything that they can't think about how to fund. They're stealing the money out of Social Security. So who's stealing the money out of Social Security? It is nonsense. Look more closely and you'll know that it's nonsense. And it's like how things get changed. It's the same thing. There's a whole bunch of those kinds of examples. Now, the reason I'm not an accountant, I'm not a statistician, I'm a carpenter contractor. But I'm a carpenter contractor. You just have to bid on things and build things and try to get paid and make payroll every week. So I'm using my carpenter brain doing this. I'm sure you may be able to find somebody who's a real tax accountant. They really know all the nitty gritty and give you a much more intelligent sort of look at that. But my carpenter brain tells me they're stealing.
Okay.
Huh.
Well,
did you expect that?
Do you think? So there's so much talk about President Trump making the Section 8 limit to 2 years. Now we know that people pass it down to generations, right? How do you think it should be a limit or time frame when it comes to Section 8, or what are your thoughts on that?
Boy, I tell you what, when you asked a baby boomer dinosaur to come in here, when I was in my teens, in high school, Abbotsford Project, right there at Fox Street and the Expressway, that's right up the street from me. The people that went into public housing, a lot of them were newly married couples. They went in there, they had a low paying job, they lived there for several years, they paid a modest amount of rent, they put aside some money, and after several years, they left there and put a down payment on a house, bought a house and moved someplace else. That was never meant to be multi-generational poverty. Multi-generational poverty. Permanent poverty. It was only supposed to be a transitional thing.
Right.
When I bought, as a contractor, I bought a couple of properties, not because I wanted to be a landlord.
Well, hold on, before you go any further, because the thing is, you mentioned there was a couple, man and wife in that home.
Right.
Section 8 now, I don't know how it was back then. there cannot be a man in the home.
Oh.
So how do you save your money if you're a single parent? Because this is the struggle right here. How do you save enough to get out of that situation and put a down payment on a home if you can't even have your partner there with you?
You know what?
You see? So it's a trap.
You are just, man, you got, you and I are on the same wavelength. There was poverty. 1964, they began to address that.
Okay.
But how they implemented that well-intentioned legislation by insisting that there be no, quote, dominant male presence. And I'm not just going to make this a black thing. This is, again, I'm telling you, this is more economic than it is color. Doesn't matter if your name ends in a vowel, dark complected, white. I don't care who you are.
Okay, but
you're
again,
poor,
but the question is,
no. Let me tell you.
How do you make that down payment? And if you're by yourself, you have these children.
You're right.
How do you do it?
You take the father and mother, two parents out of the household. You are basically condemning them. You have completely ripped apart the family unit. Are you kidding me? The way it worked during the Depression was there were extended families. There was, the grandmom and grandpapa were living with them, and there was extended families and uncles, and you didn't need daycare because the extended family that network took care. Or the churches. Before welfare, churches took care of their own communities. We have completely ignored those things that worked. Well-intentioned things. Oh, no dominant male.
Basically,
the government,
there's no
way they applied it, that can be fixed. They're the ones who screwed it up. We got to get them to stop doing stupid. But they won't admit that they made a mistake. They won't admit that they're the reason why that the black family. We're going to make it. We'll make it ethnic now. Black families have gotten completely torn apart. They weren't this disrupted in the early '60s. This is a development. The problem is there aren't that enough people like my age that know from personal experience what it used to be like, and they think it's always been this way. There's the problem. There's the problem.
It wasn't always.
This way.
Yeah.
Now, two wrongs don't make a right, but two rights will turn you around. We need to go look at and turn around and go back to where we used to be. See what used to work and put that back into effect. Yeah. And you know what? Put our big person pants on and admit that we screwed up. Now the Donald, although he's got a very interesting presentation method, which makes everybody crazy, at the end of the day, he's basically pointing out that the emperor has no clothes. And we need somebody going, the emperor doesn't have any clothes on. Okay. Can I add a personal note?
Sure.
Because of some other activities I have, believe it or not, in the skinnier version, I used to be on Boathouse Row. I had some friends at New York AC, Orchard Beach, at the foot of Long Island. And what absolutely intrigues me is a couple of guys up there. There's one guy who's a coach. I'm not going to mention his name because it might get back to him, but what a great guy, heart of gold. But when Vinny started talking like this, he sounds like a thug. Now, the guy's got a heart of gold, he's a great coach. So when the Donald first opens his mouth, I go, oh my God, another guy from Queens. There's a culture up there, and they all have that mouth. I mean, Philadelphia trash talk isn't even close to New York and North Jersey trash talk. I mean, they.
So you feel like Donald Trump? It's in him. It's because where he's from.
It's baked in the sauce.
Yeah, I get it.
He can't help himself.
Yeah.
He's from Queens. He can't help himself. He's just going to be that way. But again, if I hadn't had those personal relationships with those people, I mean, when you look at somebody, how they're dressed or how they sound or whatever, you go, oh, who does this jackass? What's going on? But it's not that. You have to look beyond the mouth and beyond and figure out what the person's all about. And I just wish he'd listen to his wife more and tone it down.
On a scale of 10.
What?
All right. Since he's been in office, Do you approve,
Which
say,
time?
10?
Is that the 100 days? Or
yes. The 7 months he's been.
He's done more in 100 days than some people have done in 2 terms.
I agree.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But he's also been tested by fire. You know?
Yeah.
This has been tested by fire.
Yeah.
And the way they weaponized the Justice Department, I hope he doesn't indulge in same behavior, but at the same time, somebody's got to take a bright light and shine it right on and say, this is what you turkeys were doing. We know what you were doing. Don't lie about it. We caught you.
Wow.
And hopefully that won't happen again. You know, that lady.
Do you think that these Epstein files need to be released?
I'm sorry, say
The
again?
Epstein files.
I don't care about Epstein.
Okay.
I mean, what's he got to do with me paying my bills? The guy committed suicide. Or maybe he didn't. Who the hell knows?
People are saying that, well, you know, President Trump is on there. Well, okay, say if his name was on there, do you think it would make a difference in anything?
Yeah, you know the thing is, just because somebody, who's it? They just released the guy from prison. They just released the guy from prison after 39 years because his cellmate lied, and the district attorney knew he was lying, and put this guy so he could put a notch on his gun belt, and this guy spent 39. Just having somebody's name mentioned doesn't make him guilty. Just this guilt by association thing doesn't do it. You need to really be guilty. You know what?
I love that.
And not just mentioned, or I think this is, or it's it would be politically. Look what they did to Mike Flynn, and the good people that they weaponized that stuff against and ruined these people.
Right.
I hope there's a special place in hell for those jackasses. Shifty Shift, who comes out of a meeting and pretends that he is divulging secret information that he's not supposed to divulge, and lying. I mean, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me.
Okay. Now I know we did say on one last question. Because I know you don't like to make it a race thing, a black and white thing, but there is, you know, do you think or believe that there is racism still?
Do I believe there's stupidity in the world?
Let me you can't get away from it.
No, here's the deal.
Yes.
Can I tell you my one anecdotal story? Okay. It's a short one.
But do you think because Mike, you always do this.
No.
I want you to answer the question first, then we can go into it.
I think there's just as much white against black as black against white racism.
Okay, now people feel that you can't be racist if you're black. There is no white racism.
Oh, thank God! Thank God the courts just held
that's not a thing.
Yeah, thank God the courts have finally said that Lady Justice has got a blindfold on and doesn't care. They just did that, you know.
Okay.
Somebody went in they said, this white woman went in and said, I'm being discriminated against. And they said, well, you got a higher bar because you're white. And the automatic assumption is different. The court just held, it doesn't matter. It's all on an even playing field. But my short story is, I was at a McDonald's marking up a drawing and having lunch, eating my sandwich. And within 30 minutes, I had 2 separate guys approach me. Happened to be 2 young black guys. So there I was dressed like a contractor with my belt, you know, my plaid shirt and my 20 and my tape on my side. Hey, I'd like to. What are you, an architect? No, I'm a contractor. Oh, I'd like to do that. So I suggested to both of them that the best thing to do is go find a contractor, go to work for him, find out how this works. But that's not enough. Down at Community College, Philadelphia, there's an architect program. You don't need a 2-year program. 4 or 5 of these subjects. Go down there at night school, marry that with what you learned during the day, you will be valuable. But here's the thing. So I said, but wait a minute. I said, I'm a little hesitant to tell you this because I'm white and you're black. Okay. You might think this is some way to get over on me, but pulled out my tape held it up there and said, handed my pencil and said, show me where 4 5/8 inches is. They couldn't find 4 5/8 inches on a ruler. I turned the drawing upside down, wrote 3/4 plus a 1/2 inch. How long is that? I don't know. Can't add fractions. I don't care what trade you're on in the construction. If you can't add 3/4 and a 1/2 inch in your head and come up with 1 1/4 inch, you're not going to be there. Okay. And here's the thing I want to tell you with. I said, again, I was hesitant to tell you because this you might think I'm getting over on you, but here's the truth. I am a contractor. I am selfish.
Okay.
I don't care what color you are. I don't care if your name ends in a vowel. There's only one thing I care about. What do you know and what can you do that makes me money? If you can make me a buck, then I gotta pay you. And if you don't think I'm paying you enough, you take you and your skills down the street and you sell them to somebody else. I am Sergeant Mike, U.S. Army. The only thing I cared about, somebody jumped in the same hole as me and the same damn color uniform on. What color you are, did your parents come over on the Mayflower? I could care less. What do you know, what can you do that makes me money? I am selfish. The rest of it is crap.
Love that. Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining me today.
This is hilarious.
Yes. Well, thank you guys for watching. We'll talk more afterwards. Thank you guys so much for watching.